Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Mwokiki Laurel, and on this channel I share tips on how to get jobs here in the UK as a carer or as a nurse or in just in the health profession here in the United Kingdom. And in this particular video I'll be sharing with you all how I passed NHS healthcare support worker interview questions and landed my second job here in the United Kingdom. Let's go into the video properly. Now, the first thing I was asked was to introduce myself. Now, when you are told to introduce yourself, there are things you ought to bear in mind. You can plan it in this order. So the first thing you may want to do is to talk about your name. Introduce yourself, tell them who you are. Of course, on your CV, they already have that record, but this is an opportunity for you to not only tell them the things that they already know about you, but also include things that you were not able to talk about in the CV. So you may want to begin by telling them your name and then telling them your qualifications. What qualifications do you have? Even if it's not relevant to the field, talk about it and try to bring out some transferable skills from those qualifications that you have and link it to the role of a healthcare support worker in the United Kingdom. Now, the third thing you want to talk about are your experiences. Talk about your experiences, things you've done in the past. Even if you're new to care, you may also want to talk about people that you've cared for, be it your grandparents, your parents, your younger siblings, or just someone you've cared for, your nieces, your nephews, your neighbors. There must be somebody you've looked after. It could even be a colleague at school or at work. So you can use that to as an experience to talk about when you've cared for someone that needed care. Now, you may also want to talk about your age, talk about your grade, talk about your hobbies. What do you do? For instance, I told them I love to cook and I also love to enjoy nature. I take my grandmother around, to enjoy nature. I love to travel. There are instances or there are times when you are working as a healthcare support worker that you may be opportune to take a client out on a walk or even travel with that person or cook for the person. That is for people who live in home care. Do you understand? Now, this is not specifically to NHS care workers. There are people who live in clients' homes. Now, you may have the opportunity to take them out on a walk, travel with them, or even cook for them. So these are little things that you can talk about that make you suitable for the role of a healthcare support worker in the United Kingdom. Now, you can also talk about your nationality, your skills. What skills do you have that you feel is important in this role? Now, tell them how you qualify for the role. You can conclude this part of the question by saying that so and so skills qualify me as a healthcare support worker. Tell them how compassionate you are. Tell them how caring you are. Tell them things that you love to do. That is all about introducing yourself. Now, the next question that I was asked was, what will you do when a patient refuses care? Now, let's say you're already working in the environment as a healthcare support worker, and then you move to a patient and you seek consent from the patient to, care for the person, and now the patient says, no, I do not want you to do this. What will you do in such a situation? This is how I answered this question. I said, let's say I go to a patient to give my patient care and the patient refuses that care. The first thing I'm going to do is to politely ask the patient why are you refusing this care, and I'll be patient and listen attentively to what the patient has to say, the reason why the patient is refusing the care. After listening to the patient, and the reason the patient doesn't want the care is not because of me, then I'll try to convince the patient and let the patient know the importance of the care. If the patient refuses, then I will document it and escalate it to my manager. And then another thing is, if my patient, the reason why my patient is refusing care is because my patient doesn't want that care directly from me, I will also document it and escalate to my manager, because the most important thing is for my patient to receive care. My patient is my top priority. Now, this was how I answered that question, and that is how you're supposed to answer yours. Make sure you ask why, and do not force a patient to receive care that they do not want. Document it and escalate to your manager. The next question: what will you do when you are the only staff on duty and is needed by 2 or 3 patients? Now, let's say you are the only person working in a particular ward, and then you are called for by different patients at the same time. What are you going to do? Now, this is the way I answered. The first thing I said was this: I'll take a deep breath. This was exactly what I did. Funny, right? So I said I'll take a deep breath and I'll remain calm, and then I will use color code to attend to the patient. What does this mean? This means that I'm going to place each of the calls on a scale of preference. I'll make sure that I attend to the call that is the most important and most demanding at that time. Do you understand? So you must make sure you use color code to tackle this particular task. The most demanding and the most important task, the most important patient at the moment will be the person you attend to, and then you attend to the second person and to the last person, assuming there were 3 patients requiring your care at the same time. The most important, you attend to that person first. Now, the fourth question: what skills are required by a carer? Now, this is a bit, you have to be very careful while answering this one. But one thing I must recommend that you do is to go back to your person specification rather. Go back to person specification. Now, before you filled your application form and submitted, I'm sure you must have gone through the vacancy post or job post and gone through the roles and person specification. Now, in the person specification, it's going to tell you the skills required for that particular role, and also the qualifications required. Now, go through it properly, and when you are asked this kind of question, make sure to answer based on what you have read from the person specification, because on the person specification is going to tell you everything about that job, the skills required, the role you will play, and the qualifications required. Now, the first thing you may want to answer, because every carer must be compassionate, must be patient, must be caring by nature, must be a good listener, must be very observant, must pay attention to details, must respect privacy, must be respectful, must respect the dignity of his or her patients. These things are very, very important, and there are more. So make sure you read through the person specification and know how to answer this particular question. Now, the next question I was asked was, what qualifications are required from a carer? Now, I do not have any qualifications, but I had experience and I was able to answer this question. In case you do not have any of the healthcare support worker qualification, you might start by talking about the experiences that you have and how it qualifies you for this role, and also convince them that upon 6 months of working as a healthcare support worker in that facility, you will be getting your care qualification or care certificate. Okay, just know how to tackle that question. I wish you the best, and if you've enjoyed this video to this very point, what is stopping you from subscribing, from liking, from commenting? And if you'll be attending an interview this week or tomorrow, I wish you the best and good luck. Bye.